Good evening and welcome to Pivotal, a Daria Media production supported by the MacArthur Foundation. I'm your host, Nabila Usman. Many believe life as we know it has changed irrevocably, and that in this seismic shift lies an opportunity to turn things around, improve our world, and make life better for the majority. It is time to reboot Nigeria. This is Pivotal. 26.5 million Nigerians will face severe hunger this year. This is an increase of nearly 8 million from just 4 months ago, according to data from the World Food Programme. Today, the price of food is nearly double of what it was last year. Armed conflict and farmer pastoralist crises have hindered access to farmlands. Outdated traditional farming practices continue to turn out low yield, and climate change has brought erratic rainfall patterns and devastating floods that jeopardize harvests. The reality is, families are starving, some raising malnourished and stunted children, while others have been forced to cut back on meals. Without this basic human need, the potential for societal breakdown is a clear and present danger. Can Nigeria overcome these challenges and ensure everyone has access to food? Today on Pivotal, we begin by listening to two farmers whose livelihoods have been affected by some of these challenges.
My major challenges from growing a large farming is insecurity, mostly in the state here. Second is lack of mechanized equipment to farm, like tractor, and we lack enough fertilizers due to the price rising up. So in terms of farming, we will farm and to harvest is a problem because of the insecurity. Rain last year did not reach where we can invest our crops the way we're supposed to harvest it. Lack of rainfall. That is the shortage of the rainfall last year. We really lost. If there's security in Zamfara, it's a fertile land. There's some area we farm like Dansado. Without fertilizer, you can harvest your crop very well. But we can't go there. If you go there, it's on your risks. So you can't risk yourself to go there. Even those that are farming, before harvesting, the bandits will be bargaining. How much this is so amount you will give before harvesting your crop. And there's no alternative that when you give, they will allow you to harvest. So this is part of frustration. I will plead to the government, most especially from the federal government level. They should look onto all these things. That is why we lack employment, because nobody is interested to farming when you don't have enough capital. And before, the government used to give loan by fertilizer and tractors and even the chemical you will use. The government used to provide it for the farmer. But these days, it's not like that. This is almost I can count it almost 80 years we have not been benefiting from that, except if you have your own capital.
This insecurity is not only in Sankla, but the whole country is affecting the food production. In fact, that is what causes the food insecurity, the food security, and the cost of food in the market. As of 2004, I produced 373 bags of rice from Naka, but that is 2013, 2014 farm. But from 2014, he my tractor operator, and my tractor was burned to ashes in Naka. Since that 2014 out to today, I have never produced out to 10 bags of rice myself. So the little one I produce is for me to consume with my family. We, the farmers, we don't need loan now. That is not the first solution. The first solution is to resolve the crisis between the farmers, the herdsmen, and the bandits. They should look at the way they will try and clear the bandits. We don't need loan now. Because if you are giving a loan of 5 million naira and the bandits are there waiting to kidnap you, will you go to the farm and farm? So all these suggestions are useless. If federal government have any money, they should use that money to either set up industries that will add value to what we, the farmers, are producing, and the industries will provide job for the youth, and maybe that will reduce the rate of criminality. And then, since the federal government have removed the subsidy in fuel, if at all, they should use that money to put subsidy in agric input. Like now, like yesterday, I asked a bag of fertilizer in Durham, and they were telling me 45,000 for only one bag of fertilizer. So if federal government can put subsidy into agric input, it will help farmers better than saying that they should give loan to the farmer. Because by the time they release that money, it's only the people in the first class will even hijack the money. We will not have it. But if we put subsidy in the agric input, I will be able to go to the market and buy it. Why is it that the food is so expensive? What are the factors that make the food to be expensive? Then these are them. One, the cost of gas. Because formerly, like Zakibian, we are taking a triple yam. We are taking a triple yam from Zakibian to Port Harcourt for 600,000. Now a triple lorry road from Zakibian to Port Harcourt is 2.2, 2.3. Lagos, 2.5. You will have to pay for a full lorry. And if you load out to 12,000 tubers of yarn into this, divide 2.5 on this lorry. Another factor is the level of security on Nigerian highway. That is really shooting the price of food. Because if you load from Zakibian now, for instance, from Zakibian to Katsina is a journey of less than 70 kilometers. You have more than 70 checkpoints from Zakibian to Katsina. I'm not talking of from Zakibian to even Ogoja if you are following Ogoja Road. I'm talking of from Zakibian to Katsina, you have more than 70 checkpoints. A journey of less than 70 kilometers has more than 80 checkpoints, security checkpoint. And each checkpoint, you will give 100, 1,000 or 2,000 before. This security have taken this as is not a privilege, it's their right.
We've just heard from two farmers, one in Zamfara and one in Benue, speaking on the challenges they face in trying to produce their crop. This evening, for the conversation, I'm joined by the Honourable Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Dr. Abdullahi Sabi Aliyu. I also have Halima Njogdi, who's the Director General of Let's Give Agriculture a Voice, Lugabo Cooperatives. And I have on the panel Dr. Godwin Atse, who has a PhD in Agricultural Extension and Rural Development and is Country Director of Sasakawa Africa Association. Thank you for joining me on the panel.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Honourable Minister, I'd like to start with you. The threat of food security is not new. We've been dealing with it for decades now. And the more recent conversation has been because it has it's become more serious. Successive administrations have implemented successive policies to varying degrees of success or varying implementation degrees, right? Yeah. What's your administration going to do differently?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And let me say very good evening to my co-participants here. First, I think we need to create the context. And I think earlier in your opening, I heard you talk about some of the constraints. And I think we need to first establish that the challenge Nigeria is facing today has a global dimension. And the global dimension here ranges from the climate change, which you all know Africa and indeed developing countries are at the worst receiving end of it. Then secondly, the global crisis in terms of the Russia-Ukraine war has also exacerbated what we are seeing because it has disrupted some element of the supply chain. For example, fertilizer. Now, the other aspect is that because of the climate change also, Nigerians will recall we had flooding. And this flooding swept a number of farms between 2021, and 2022. And you also will recall the Naira redesign. Farmers were at the receiving end, where they are unable to pay for labor using cash. And so a lot of them were unable to meet up. Agriculture is time-bound. So even if you plow your land and you are not able to plant, if the time passes, if you plant, you are just planting grass. So all of this, when you put all of this in context, they have, to varying degrees, contributed to the current food situation we are witnessing. But then, upon arrival of this government, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made it very clear from day one that he's not going to complain and he's going to hit the ground running to do the work. And so, even before he appointed ministers, he declared a state of emergency on food security, which clearly signifies and indicates that the president is not unaware of what the situation is. He's fully aware of the situation, and that explains why he felt it was grave and serious enough for him to declare a state of emergency on food security. And we came on board in August. So since we came on board, along with my colleague, distinguished Senator Abubakar Kyari, incidentally, we were all senators, so there is a lot between us in terms of understanding, because when you have a crisis situation, the team itself must be perfect. And I think the president, did well in putting the two of us together to face this challenge. So since we came on board, we met a program that was designed to respond to the food crisis. And that program is called National Agricultural Growth Scheme Agro Pocket. It was designed to ramp up production so that we can crash the price of food. And this program was designed to increase production in our staple crops, namely wheat, maize, sorghum, and cassava. Now, what we have done is the last dry season, starting from November to early part of this year, was one window we took advantage of. And the wheat belt comprises of 15 states of the northern part of the country. And our target was 120,000 hectares so that we are able to ramp up production. We got the seed, which we gave free, and other inputs. Now, at the end of 4 months, from November, December, January, February, as we speak, a lot of farmers have either finished harvesting their wheat or they are in the process of harvesting. And I think at the end of the harvest period, based on the performance review, we were able to have 118,000 hectares of land that we are plowed to wheat. The figures in terms of our projection is there, but until it is completed, perhaps if I call a figure now, it might turn out to be incorrect. But let me say that for the first time, for those who know wheat farmers, you can find out in the field, this was a different scenario entirely. And the success was no thanks to the fact that in doing this work, we have to mobilize the state government, the subnationals, and in particular, to mention in this particular effort, I think is Jigawa State. The governor was upbeat, and he cooperated and gave us maximum support. Other state governors that participated did. But the reason why Jigawa State is significant is because they contributed 55,000 hectares out of the total 120,000 hectares that we targeted. or even the 118.
Honorable Minister, I will return to some of these things that you've raised, very important. I want to turn to Haja Njobdi at the moment.
But I think it's important you allow me to, because the entire thing is about government.
Yes.
And there is, let me just quickly, just give me 2 minutes, let me just round up the other programs. Why I decided to elaborate on this is because that program will still continue even in this wet season. And we are already right now preparing. In fact, even before coming here, I've attended to more than 3 files having to do with subject matter. So what we are saying is that as a response, what we need to do is to increase production. Now, fortunately, again, the last administration, the CBN dabbled into agriculture and had some supply of fertilizer, which the governor graciously, under the directive of Mr. President, has now transferred 2,150,000 bags of assorted fertilizer to us. The fertilizer input supply, that is the department we have dealing with inputs. They've gone to take sample to find out the quality and to be certain that the quality is what they said it is. So we are hoping this will help us in the oncoming rainy season. So for the first time, we have an advantage here because we are preparing. I had one of the farmers saying 8 years he has not received any input or whatever. I don't think to an extent that is correct. It's just that maybe he will say he has not gotten.
You must forgive me. I do have to interrupt you, right? And I think you will find some of what Haja Njobdi will say interesting because she is a representative of the smallholder farmers whom you have been engaging with, right? So I want to come to you, Haja Njobdi. Experts say that smallholder farmers have fed Nigeria for years. What does food insecurity look like to them?
First of all, sorry, gentlemen, if you excuse me. When talking about agriculture, we must understand the entire package of agriculture. One, we are talking of availability of food, access to food, stability, but 2 pointers come to play here I really want to delve into, which is poverty and low production. As we speak now, the farmers too, they are hungry. And if you talk of the smallholder farmers, those who farm, we've been involved with the Fadama group, where they are being given stipends to produce, and it ends there. If the farmers cannot meet what we need in the market to buy, there's a problem. Besides the risk factors, which we don't want to delve into now, is not the topic for today. But at the same time, the issue of poverty plays a big role here because we're talking of spending now. It's just, the money is just in the few hands of people who have the money, while the low-income communities now, a lot of them have changed their diets to meet. Even with that, they can't meet up. So, in my own, when you look at the production itself, that's the basic thing is very important. If we are able to meet production and the government agree to give the individuals, NGOs, and government themselves the enabling ground so that we can go into dialogue and find how to fix this problem.
Let me interrupt you for a moment and ask you that enabling ground, what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, when we're talking about food now, we have to go to the table for dialogue. We have to find out where it hurts them. I felt the government have not done enough orientation. One, because we have the Nigerian Agricultural Insurance Corporation there, who stands as gap for these farmers. 99% of Nigerians don't know there is an insurance scheme covering their farm produce. So they take risks themselves, they complain with the loot they get, they cannot meet up. So these are all problems, so many, the list is too much. If government wants agriculture to work, I personally think we are crying in the midst of plenty. Agriculture, we started it, that was our initial source of revenue, and we can still do it. But presently, what we practice in this country now, we are practicing smallholder, homestead gardening, food production. If we are doing commercial, industrial farming, we'll be able to meet some of these roadblocks in terms of food.
So I would like to bring you, Dr. Atse, into the conversation. You've heard the previous comments. I want to touch on climate change, which the Honorable Minister mentioned. Sasakawa Africa Association, you've been around for a few decades. If you could give us a summary look of how climate change has impacted food output in Nigeria, and perhaps briefly touch on whether or not we're having the right conversations from government regarding this critical issue.
All right, thank you so much, Nabila, for inviting Sasakawa Africa Association to be part of this conversation. Climate change today is very important in the production system. And the reason is because today it is difficult to predict when the rains will come and when they will go, when farmers can plant and when they can harvest. That's one. The second dimension is when you look at the issue of climate change, because of its influence, there are new pests and diseases that are emerging now, and they are, actually affecting productivity. This also goes to a lot extent to the soils. For instance, trying to understand what is going on in the soil. Our practices in agriculture, some of them we need to actually see how we can rethink some of them, like the use of water, for instance, in rice. What can we do to actually control the use of water? Because in rice, for instance, when you keep water, if you keep rice underwater for a lot of time, that leads to the production of greenhouse gases, methane in particular. And this contributes to greenhouse gases, which are the key drivers of climate change. Now, all of these are happening, and the bottom line is that this is affecting productivity. And we agree with what Madam has said here, because if we don't solve the productivity question, we will continue to have this kind of conversation from year in, year out. If you look at cassava, for instance, the productivity or yield, as we may call it, per hectare, is just about 7 tons per hectare, compared to other countries like Thailand, where you can have 20 tons per hectare. Maize is the same thing. We are still struggling with 2 tons per hectare, compared to even the demonstration fields that we have in country, that you can get up to 5 tons per hectare. And the same thing with rice. So, by increasing productivity alone, we can turn around the fortune of smallholder farmers. As you rightly said, about 80% of the food that we produce, they constitute about 80%, the smallholder farmers, and they contribute to about 90% of the food production that we consume. So we need to solve the productivity question. We did some analysis between what the farmers in northern Nigeria who grow wheat, rice, and maize, what they earn compared to India. And we found out that while the farmers in Nigeria earn less than $1,000 per year, farmers in India is about 4,000. So the first thing that we need to do is to see how we solve the productivity question, which is very important. And solving the productivity question means that we need to address the issues of climate change. And what can we do quickly? We need to look at varieties that are climate smart, for instance. We need to teach farmers how they can, some practices that can help them to adapt to the changing environment. Maybe I'll stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Atse. I do appreciate your contribution. And I'm sure the Honorable Minister wants to make certain comments. regarding what both of you have said. Honorable Minister, I want to tack on to it, right?
Well, I think for me, it's not even the issue of comments.
Okay.
You asked an earlier question, what is government doing?
Yes.
And because it's government, you didn't give me enough time to elaborate on the many things we're doing. And the challenges are enormous. You've listed so many challenges, and there is no one solution that will fit all of these challenges.
So, Honorable Minister,
So
how about I ask you this instead? Which of the things is this administration doing that's different from what the previous 4, I believe, that we've had so far have done? How is it going to be different?
Well, I think sometimes when we ask this question, we're just trying to bring finesse to discussions. To me, the challenge we met on ground in terms of governance is what we are trying to tackle. Because whatever it is, if you start looking at what somebody has done and what you are trying to do, it might be different from the challenge you are facing. So I would rather want us to focus on the challenge, which I think part of which the discussants have touched on. The issue we met on ground, which you also have clearly stated, is the fact that there is increasing hunger, lack of food or expensive food and things like that. And to solve part of the problem, he has tackled one of it, which is the issue of productivity. Now, to solve productivity is not something you do in just one season. I think we need to be clear on this. But what I'm trying to bring here is the fact that as government, we have worked out very clear strategies which we are tackling on a daily basis to solve the problem so that by the end of this year's rainy season, for example, we want to see where we are. And it's a lot of things happening at the same time. So if you just oblige me, I think I would like to just quickly point at 1, 2, 3 of them.
Let me do this instead. When we return from the break, I will come to you because I do understand that it's important to know what exactly government is doing so that we can engage with that conversation.
Yeah.
You're still watching Pivotal here, and we are discussing food security. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, the live studio audience we have will be engaging with the panelists and we'll take questions and comments. Stay tuned.
Every second and every minute, something new happens.
The Nigerian National Patrol.
The news breaks.
People at a spot, and angry mobs decided to bomb.
Everyone wants to share it, but not everyone wants to dig deep. Now that's where we come in. We bring you the news and go beyond with in-depth conversations and analysis with stakeholders.
I honestly think that the federal government on its own part had...
We bring you the story within the story. And that's what makes us tick. We are Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos, and we go beyond the news.
I welcome this opportunity to highlight, through the eyes of my country, Nigeria, one of the main challenges the world is facing. We may live in an era defined largely by remarkable new technologies, but we still face challenges that plague the ancient world, none more debilitating or indeed preventable than hunger. Many regions and countries face severe food insecurity, but the problem is most prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa. Climate change and poor agricultural practices are exacerbating the problem. We can see this from the inadequate cereal harvest to the declining number of fish in the Niger Delta. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development points the way forward. Food and agriculture figure prominently in this vision. But this will require a major push. Governments need to adopt more ambitious policies and investment plans that focus not only on agriculture, but also on poverty, hunger, and resilience to climate change. We have the opportunity to end hunger within our lifetimes. This is one of the greatest legacies that we can leave to future generations. Let us continue working towards a world with zero hunger.
Welcome back. This is Pivotal, a Dari Media production supported by the MacArthur Foundation. I'm your host, Nabila Usman, and today's conversation centers on the current hunger levels in Nigeria and how we can attain food security. My guests are the Honorable Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Dr. Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi. I also have Halima Njogdi, who's the Director General of Let's Give Agriculture a Voice, Lugavo Cooperatives, and Dr. Godwin Atse, who has a PhD in Agricultural Extension and Rural Development, and also Country Director of Sasakawa Africa Association. At this point, I would like to invite the audience here in the studio to join the conversation. So if you have a question, identify yourself and you can ask your question. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mrs. Margaret Mpanam from Cross River State. I want to thank the Honorable Minister for being present in this gathering. And Mrs. Njobi, thank you for what you're doing. In fact, the women in agriculture are very proud of you. Thank you so much. And Minister, my question goes to you briefly. You made mention about what the government is doing to help the farmers. And you talked about, is it Jigawa State and their level of contribution to make it easy for the government to affect the farmers positively. I am from Cross River State. And like you know, we are farmers. We have women in agriculture from Cross River State, capable women. And I want to say that the extension program you're doing has not really gotten to our women. And even I want to also encourage your distribution channel that you should also extend it to our state. Our governor is a very friendly man, and he is very, very concerned about the agriculture, and is very concerned about our women in agriculture. I don't know if the program has been discussed with him, but since it's a national and federal program, I know maybe he must be aware. We have acres of land, we have land to give, and we have women that are ready to work. So I would want you to also extend this distribution channel to our state.
Have the minister respond to your, I believe it's more of a concern, isn't it? Let's have another contribution very quickly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Margaret. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, panelists. I think the conversation has been very insightful. My name is Chojo Adejo, and I'm entrepreneur, innovator, and the founder of Ojuwo Oginago Community Development Initiative. We are a community in Kogi State, Olamaboro local government to be precise. I have a question for the Honorable Minister, and I have two contributions to the discussion.
Very briefly, please.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask the Honorable Minister why the train transport infrastructure is not being used to alleviate the problems or the challenges due to transporting goods from the north to the south. In Kogi State, the Itakpe train station cuts across a number of states going down south, and we do believe that taking advantage of that corridor would ease a lot of the problems. I don't know if the ministry is doing anything regarding that. And my contribution is that it seems the government often is doing a lot, but doesn't really do well in terms of marketing communications of its initiative, whether at the federal, state, or local level. I wanted to point out the fact that we do have very capable hands in this country, and we have consultants and people who can actually push the initiatives you're doing and ensure that it gets to the grassroots. I don't know if that can be explored. And it is clear that poverty still remains a problem, and a global one at that. Most of the small, medium farmers are quite poor, and they really can hardly play a part, especially when it comes to exporting and getting value for agricultural products. I'm concerned that state-owned enterprises, especially in the agri sector, are not really doing much in terms of expectations. We see a lot of private sector players doing a lot more than the state-owned enterprises in this area, and I want to suggest that where possible, the conversation around stakeholder engagement should be an ongoing one, because agriculture is really, really a critical part of the agenda of this administration. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do one more contribution very quickly from here and then move to the other side.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Minister, welcome to this program. You've been very passionate when you speak, because I've watched you over time. And I know you're a very passionate personality. I am Mrs. Hajara Bello. I just want to appreciate your presence tonight. And I know with you here, whatever is being discussed is not just going to be swept under the carpet. I know you're going to take it seriously. I'm coming from a constituency, and that is the army, the barracks. These women need help, and we need land for cultivation of crops. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Bello. Just very quickly, we'll take a couple from this side as quickly as possible.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ogbaja Grace Ufedojo. So, the Honorable Minister, when you were talking about Ogbaja Grace Ufedo. You are talking about politics. So how does political instability affect food security in Nigeria?
Political instability. Okay. There's a question, so no problem.
Thank you. My name is Professor M.K. Othman from Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, former ED NRLS. I would like to ask one question and then make 3 contributions very quickly. Yeah, the first question I will want to ask is, I want to ask the Honorable Minister. I want to first commend the effort of the government by making sure that CBN has no business now in terms of implementing agricultural policy by making them to hand over this 2 million. This is a very commendable effort. But I also, having said this, the fertilizer need to be with the farmers at this very moment, because today I was on the field, and in fact, we're in Nasarawa. We found that a lot of farmers have planted, and they're looking for this fertilizer. So of course, what he said they are doing, quality analysis, is very important. But I think, how long will this take? Because if this 2 million fertilizer will go to the market, I believe to crash down the prices. Then in terms of contribution, I would want to say that federal government has been doing very well in terms of contribution. I have written an article which appeared today in Blueprint on food security. I say Nigeria has no business with hunger, and I mean it. Nigeria has no business with hunger. Having known the country, having gone and see the resources we have. So, but then we need a lot of effort that has to be collective. Federal government is doing a lot, but what is the state government doing? Most of the state government, you don't seem to see them doing anything. So, what I'm trying to say is that we need to have collective effort, and we need to have synergy. And then that's the only way we'll be able to see we achieve this food security. Thank you very much.
One last person. One last person. Identify yourself, and you can make your contribution very briefly.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Ibi Wantana. My concern is about the productivity. Why is there no acceptance of technology? Technology is not really embedded in our productivity. We are still analog in that aspect of farming. So, what's the problem? Even if it's available, it's highly expensive. The normal farmer can't afford it. And we are complaining of food, and we are still using whole to farm, something like that.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions and your contributions. I'm going to come back to the panel. Honorable Minister, you do have quite a bit to get through, and I will implore that you give me the chance, patience, right? I want to direct some of the questions to the other panelists, because I believe that their expertise will help to perhaps expand it a little more. I will start with you, Haja Njogdi. The question on how political instability impacts agriculture, output, whether it's access to farms, whatever the case. Speak to us on the real life impact. What does it mean for farmers, particularly from administration to administration?
Well, thank you, Nabila. Well, what I want you to understand at the audience is that when you talk about agriculture, there's no one size fits all to solve agriculture. And the issue of politics coming in, everybody comes in with his own new placard. You never find, when Adeshina, the former Minister of Agriculture, was there, he came in with a very good plan. And majority of us thought Somehow we could borrow leave from some of this and continue. But it stopped there. Everybody brings their own ideas. You can't say, because this is where politics come in. You can't come in because you are coming in, you are bringing something. You destabilize the policies and everything attached to it. Their brains in Federal Ministry of Agriculture, I've worked closer with some of them. And the interference sometimes of the politician on agriculture too creates a lot of problem. I will tell you, for instance, the last fertilizer distributed within my area in Amak. It was a politician that got, nobody got a bag. They got this fertilizer and they had to look for people who will buy them. This shouldn't come in at all. And I'll appreciate Honorable Minister, thank God you are here. The message will be sent across. I think you people have a lot to do. Leave agriculture for individuals, organization. You come in at supervisory level where it all sorts as intervention to look into where we can tackle this food security and insecurity, Honorable, please.
Dr. Atse, I'd like you to make a contribution here, particularly with the last question on tech and how that can impact productivity, whether that's by yield or even the quality of the crop that we're producing.
Okay, I think I will take it back and try to maybe talk about the fertilizer and what we at Sasakawa Africa Association we are trying to do with farmers to solve the problem. So we have recognized that fertilizer is a major issue right from the time that we had the Russia and Ukraine war. So we have seen that the prices are going up. And in fact, if you compare the prices of last year and this year, they are 2 times. They have actually doubled. So what Sasakawa is doing is to work with the farmers to see how we promote the use of composting, for instance. So in several communities now that we're working with our farmers, we are promoting the use of compost manure as opposed to fertilizer. So, and this is actually gaining ground now because it is also a very good alternative for farmers to actually look at how can they incorporate compost in their production equation. We have seen that if there needs to be conversation and extension activities around the use of fertilizer itself, because if you use it without the use of practices like composting, it will also not be well taken up by the crops over a period of time. So these are some of the practices that we are promoting, and we're getting a good, very, very good results on that. That is one. The second thing I'd like to talk about,
yes,
which is the uptake of tech. Basically, what we have been doing is working with the farmer to see how the innovations that are developed, farmers take them. And that has been our mandate. How do we engage the extension systems that have been broken down in many states? How do we rejuvenate and revive them? And that is what we've been doing. Now, we have seen that when you engage the extension system and you equip them with digital skills, this helps to a large extent to actually help farmers to take up technology and to bridge the yield gap. Today, what we are doing is some form of e-extension where we conduct webinars, for instance, so that farmers can actually get the new innovations, new practices, and use them. So these are the ways we are using to take innovations to the farmers. The other dimension,
I apologize,
which is the
I
last
must
one,
interrupt you. I must interrupt
Okay.
you because I do need the Honourable Minister to make his contribution as well and to respond to quite a few of the questions. Would you like me to do a recap very quickly? Please go ahead.
First, honestly, there is so much to say, and I must say that you are not giving us enough time.
I apologize.
The federal government is the federal government. And I think when you ask the question, the president has a very total commitment to this agricultural sector. And recall, food security is the #1 priority on his 8-point agenda. That tells you how important we looked at it. So what we are doing, like I said, is enormous. Production, and somebody talked about productivity. Productivity is driven by many factors. And we are aware, and we are doing all we can in terms of providing even the extension service. For example, the wheat program we talked about. NERLS was the center point where extension agents across all the production zones were trained. Over 370 extension agents were trained, as trained the trainer for them to go back and train other extension agents. And I think the idea behind the Jigawa State is the Jigawa State government took it very serious. They have their own total number of extension agents that they also trained, having received the higher training from NERLS and the expert we brought in to support the wheat production. Now, apart from that, you talked about productivity gains. You need improved seeds. We are working to see that our research institutes are now more responsive. Unlike before, our seed planning system is being rejuvenated, because if you want to go into production, you need to have the right seed produced a year before. Because there is a way this thing works, and I'm sure the experts here know that if you see a seed being planted this year, the production of that seed started 2 years back, where you do the breeder seed, come to foundation seed, and then you have your certified seed. That is being rejuvenated so that farmers will get seed, farmers will get fertilizer, and the fertilizer is not just the inorganic fertilizer. We're also talking about organic fertilizer. There's a lot of organic fertilizer around in the market, and we are also using that to support farmers. Now, in terms of extension delivery, also, I'm happy he talked about the e-extension. In fact, right now, for all the programs we are doing, we are also translating technical messages into various languages so that farmers across either the southwest, the southeast, or the north, the major languages, they'll be able to get information across. And that is taking place across different programs. And what we're trying to do now is to create a standard platform. That is part of this year's budget. Because like we said, we met a situation on ground. If there is no crisis, we will not be talking about all these solutions. There's crisis on ground. So we are trying to provide all of these solutions. And I think the aspect of interference, yes, it can be true that there are interference. But let me say this time around that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given us a matching order. Remember, we all signed an agreement. You either perform or you quit. And so we are also holding officers of government accountable for their actions, and we are not interfering in any way. All we do is tell them what to do. Let us deliver this thing because Nigerians are eager to get the solution.
To your engagement with the states, because there was a contribution
Yes.
about...
Now, let me tell you this. For the first time, state governors have seen the Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Agriculture, as a very viable partner. And more than 17 of them have engaged us. And in everything we are doing, we go back to the state to give us the list of farmers. Now, I would like to say one thing about this. Nigerians will recall some programs that were done in the past. A lot of people claim to be farmers and they are not farmers. They are ghost farmers, they are paper farmers, they are portfolio farmers. And in the program we are running and we're going to run soon, we are doing all we can to weed them out of the system because we want to get directly to the farmers. Let them get the input. If it's half an hectare you have, 2 hectares, 1 hectare, whatever, get the input so that you can go to farm.
So, Honourable
That is what we are
Minister,
targeting.
just so that you can touch on this last point that was made, there was a question on the mode of transportation for food across the country. People in Lagos will tell you what they're paying for food and how much of a difference that is from food that's being sold in Benue, in Kaduna, in Kano, whatever the case.
Yeah. Well, this requires a whole of government approach because first you talked about using rail. Rail is not within the purview of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. You talk about roads. Roads is not within the purview of Ministry of Transportation. So what the response is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has seen this massive infrastructural deficit and has established the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund, which is designed to integrate all of the issues about road transportation, rail transportation, and even the, what do they call it, aviation. So that at the end of the day, you are able to do the connection between production site to industrial site and to the citizens.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Now, I will take final thoughts from you, right? And at this point, I won't try to put words in your mouth because I do see that there's quite a bit that each of you wants to say. Dr. Atse, I'll start with you. Your final thoughts. Food security is not just about supply. It's also about quality of supply.
Yes. To my final thoughts is that, yes, progress is being made. That is a fact. But we need to do more. More is still required. And this is what the Honorable Minister has also agreed to, that the government is putting efforts to change the narrative. We need to see how we reduce the number of people that are at risk of extreme hunger this year from the report of the WFP. And for us in Sasakawa Africa Association, we've been a very close partner with the Ministry of Agriculture, and we are there to always support.
Thank you, Dr. Atse. Hajar Njodi, you've got the floor. Your final thoughts on this conversation, and especially, again, from the perspective of that smallholder farmer and what exactly they want heard.
One, we need a proper coordination of the group, like the Honorable Minister just said, to identify real farmers. It's just like when you hear ghost workers in the farm industry is enormous. Someone will tell you he has 1 hectare, 3 hectares. You go there, he doesn't have anything. So this, we really have to scrutinize the farmers, those who call themselves farmers. And this is one of the reasons from our own end, let us give agriculture a voice. We had to embed each monarch within the local government area council to identify real farmers. With this, we'll be able to know who we're talking to, who is entitled to have the farmers grant or whatever, and somebody will be held responsible. So these and other things, if, like I said, private organizations, individual, and the Federal Minister of Agriculture, before you talk of government, we must have a dialogue. We must have a dialogue.
Thank you, Hajar Njobdi.
I will start from where she started.
As you're starting from where she stopped, I do want to remind you once again, just to bring back to our focus the figure, 26.5 million severe hunger Nigerians this year. They will face it. They will be unable to put food on their table. You're not just focused on agriculture, you're also focused on food security. Different, but very much related.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you that by the grace of God, we will not get there because we are working very hard to reverse and ramp up our production figure so that when food is available, it's able to crash down the price. We are doing everything we can. The rainy season is in the corner, and we know down south, they've actually started their session. So we are all aware of this. Agriculture is time-bound. But in terms of engagement, like she has said, we are reviving the cooperative sector. because we know the cooperative sector is a very, very viable and veritable tool to use in organizing people so that they can take opportunity and give economy of scale to whatever they are going to do. And I'm sure, now that I've seen, let's give agriculture a voice, I'm sure they will soon be invited when that is done. But let me say quickly that in terms of data, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is working hard to establish a National Agricultural Data Center that will ensure that we have a verifiable data in terms of our farmer population, who is doing what, where are they doing it, what hectare they have, so that we can plan in terms of the support that will be coming to them. At the same time, look forward to the youth coming in to tell us how they want agriculture to run. Like the young man there said, you are still using hoe. So government mechanization program, we have 3 powerful mechanization programs on board: the John Deere Tractor Memorandum of Understanding, the Green Imperative Program of Mechanization, and then the Greener Hope National Agricultural Mechanization Program. All of these designed to take care of various forms of agri-mechanization so that we can raise the productivity, because that is also one element of productivity, even if the yields are there. And we are also working to see that we have a farmer soil health card program, so that each farmer will know the health of his land as at the time he's going to production. All these programs are in the offing, and we have gone very far. This year, we have a lot to do. We are working more. You've asked us to work more. Yes. I want to assure you, we are going to work more. Myself, Senator Obakar Kyari, the PAMSEC, all the directors of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, our agencies, NAIC that you are talking about, yes. We are reviving NAIC. Government is helping us. There is a committee under the office of the Vice President.
I will simply take it, Honorable Minister.
There's so much we are doing. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is really out to solve these problems.
And we are looking forward to the communication part that you mentioned earlier. So perhaps we will simply be doing a brief of this the next time we sit. I do want to say a big thank you to each of you for your contributions. A quick recap. The points that were made today: the government needs to work on increasing agricultural production. That's very clear. There's also a need to implement robust use of technology to address lingering issues in the agricultural sector. To tackle some of these issues, the government is currently working to improve seed production and distribution, as said by the Honourable Minister. Another point that was made: farmers should be equipped with skills necessary to adapt to the disruptions of climate change. That's this month's edition of Pivotal. I'd like to say a big thank you to my guests on the panel: the Honourable Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Dr. Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, also Halima Njobdi, who is the Director General of Let's Give Agriculture a Voice Lugavo Cooperatives, and Dr. Godwin Atse, who's the Country Director of Sasakawa Africa Association. Join me next month for another conversation on the 29th of May as I sit with another set of Nigerians implementing unconventional ideas. This is Pivotal, brought to you by the MacArthur Foundation. I'm Nabila Usman. Good night.